college students around the nation have joined the Occupy movement. Students at the University of California, Berkeley, joined by setting up tents on their main campus. In a show of solidarity, students at the University of California, Davis, joined in peaceful protest on their campus. On Friday, November 18th, these protests turned violent when police began spraying chemical substances into the faces of students. Video of the incident has gone viral, with many expressing shame at the university administration and law enforcement. Corrie Jacobs, a junior at UC Davis, joins us now from Davis, California. Corrie, thank you for joining us. This all began on Tuesday when students at UC Davis decided to protest in solidarity with UC Berkeley over the high cost of tuition. Can you talk about how this all began on Tuesday?
Yes, so on Tuesday there was a general assembly on our quad at noon. I would say there were probably a few hundred students that were there to show solidarity with the students and professors and other protesters that had to face police brutality at UC Berkeley.
And after Tuesday, it escalated. On Thursday, students began marching around campus, interrupting classes as well.
Right. So on Thursday, I'm not too sure as to how far spread it was on campus, but I know that I was sitting in class in a building called Roman Hall, and my class was disrupted for a good 10 minutes. Students were marching and opening the door to our classroom and yelling at us to join their strike. And afterwards, they all had a general assembly on the quad where they decided that they wanted to set up an encampment, and so they started bringing out tents. The administration reacted to this Thursday encampment by saying they needed to be out by midnight. After midnight, they weren't leaving, so the chancellor told the police department not to let them stay for the night.
And then on Friday, when the students did not leave and university officials demanded that the students did leave, the incident that I think everyone has seen over the internet, the video of students sitting on the floor being pepper sprayed in the face occurred.
Right, so what went down on Friday is that students were told they needed to dismantle their tents by 3 p.m. because it was the weekend and facilities would be closed and students would not be able to have a protest and be safe and have facilities like bathrooms and water and everything like that. So by 4 p.m. there were still some students that did not want to dismantle their tents. Also to note that it wasn't just students, there were some protesters that were not students. So by 4 p.m. there were still a couple of tents left, and that's when the police decided to use this chemical substance in order to break up this peaceful protest.
Can you talk to the amount of students that were protesting relative to your student body prior to this incident happening? If you had to round off the number, how many students would you say were active in the UC Davis protest before this incident on Friday afternoon?
Before Friday. So protesting, there are about 30,000 students at Davis, graduate and undergraduate. Protesting has not been a very big thing at Davis. A lot of the times we have buses to go to Berkeley to protest, and we have students. We had, I think, around 10 students that were arrested at Occupy San Francisco. A lot of times, Davis is a suburb of Sacramento, and a lot of times, if students want to protest, they go to San Francisco, which is about an hour away, or they go to Berkeley, which is also about an hour away. So I would say that not a lot of people have been protesting at Davis. If, like, the General Assembly on Tuesday, maybe a few hundred students and faculty were there, like maybe 3 faculty or something like that. It's not been a big thing. This Friday incident has just, it's exploded. Everyone is now getting involved.
What was the reaction among students after this incident on Friday? I saw the video online and I was just appalled how this could happen on a campus in America in today's time. What was the reaction among students there and the reaction you've been getting from friends and family outside of the UC Davis community?
Mhm. So on Friday, I was not there myself on Friday. I had a friend who was there. There were about maybe 50 people actually protesting. There were about 20 to 30 police present, and then there were around, the report's been saying around 200 bystanders were there just to take pictures and make sure that it's going on social media and so people can see what had happened. And I had a friend there who was one of the bystanders taking pictures, and she came back and she told me the story and she was appalled. But I feel that none of this really exploded until yesterday when it became national news. And everyone is just, it's all over Facebook, it's all over Twitter, it's everywhere. New York Times, LA Times, just everywhere. So I've been seeing a lot of awful reactions from students on Facebook and Twitter calling for the resignation of our chancellor, which I'm not sure if I agree with. I think that she just needs to make a formal apology. We have gotten letters from our chancellor, emails that are just very false rhetoric. She's not really taking the full blame for it. Our chief of police is defending the actions of the officers that use pepper spray.
So, Corrie, the officers that did use pepper spray, just to be clear, were not Davis City Police. They were the University of California, Davis Campus Police. What is the rationale that the chief of campus police is giving for using pepper spray on students?
Right. So the City of Davis Police has come out with a statement saying that they were not involved at all. The officers involved were University of California Police. And the chief of police, Annette Spinoza, the chief of the UC Davis Police, not City of Davis, has said that they were right to use the pepper spray because the officers felt threatened. What had happened was in the middle of our quad, there's a kind of circular walkway, and there were tents in the middle of the circle, and then there were protesters sitting around it in a circle with their arms linked, sitting down. The officers were around that, and then outside of the officers were around 200 bystanders or so. The officers are saying that they felt threatened for their safety and that they had to use pepper spray in order to get out of that situation, even though people would have let them pass through them to get out of the club.
Okay, and
so they're saying it's a question of officer safety.
Okay, and students haven't been the only people appalled by this. A lot of professors have been. One professor, Nathan Brown of the English department, has began a petition demanding the resignation of the chancellor. What are professors doing on your campus?
Right, so Nathan Brown is a professor in the English department, which I'm a part of and proud to be a part of. He has demanded that the chancellor resign, and that his letter has been made into a change.org petition, which last night I checked, it was at 12,000 or so signatures. So that has happened. Professor Bob Ostertag, who is a professor of technocultural studies and music, wrote a piece for the Huffington Post, and one of my professors has decided to cancel class on Monday for the first time in her career because she feels that she needs to draw the line somewhere, and she feels that she needs to go to an emergency meeting instead of holding class. So professors are outraged just as much as students are.
And yesterday, Saturday, a press conference was held by the chancellor and chief of campus police, but that was interrupted by student protest. And I know over Twitter and over Facebook, everyone was talking about how the chancellor was trapped in this building by students for several hours. Can you tell us about that? And were you there?
Right, so I was not there, but I was watching it unfold on the internet like any other student. It's getting towards the end of the quarter. I have a lot of final papers to write. But what happened was at 4 o'clock, there was a scheduled press conference by the UC administration, UC Davis administration. So Chancellor Linda Kategi was there, and the chief of police, Annette Spinoza, was there. A few others were there. And first of all, students were enraged that this press conference was announced only a couple of hours before it was about to take place. So I had a friend that went down there, and what was going on was it was in a very small lecture hall where only people with press badges were allowed in, and so students were standing outside the door demanding that they wanted to be a part of this. They wanted to hear what was going on. They wanted to ask questions. And so about the fourth question into the Q&A section of the press conference, students had broken into the building and were chanting, and the press conference was shut down. The chancellor was rushed out of the lecture hall straight away, and so this press conference started at 4 p.m., and the chancellor did not leave until 7 p.m. because she felt that her safety was being jeopardized, because hundreds, almost 1,000, is what reports have been saying, of students were standing outside of this building, surrounding this building. It's a very small building, and they're just chanting and ordering pizza, and they're very, very peaceful, yet she felt that her safety would be jeopardized if she had left the building. She finally left the building at 7 p.m., where students were lining the walkway to her car, and as she drove away, there were just students sitting there in silence, just staring at her.
Is this the first disagreement that the student body has had with the chancellor? Would you say that there was resentment there before this happened and this just sparked it, or was everything kumbaya before this?
Right, so our chancellor is pretty new. I would say this is her third year as chancellor. I want to say that this is her first job as a chancellor. I'm not too sure about that, but she's pretty new at her job, and there hasn't been any like incident yet. Tuition has been rising. Everyone is frustrated. It's California budget not going anywhere. I wouldn't say that there's an incident with the chancellor. Usually protests have been directed at the UC regents, especially the president of UC, Mark Yudof, for raising tuition. But we have, in the past few years, we have had incidents of hate crimes, but she has reacted to it like anyone should. Okay. So I wouldn't say that this is just a personal direction towards the chancellor.
What would you say is the mood on campus right now, today, the morning after?
Right now, everyone, I would say, is still just, how has this happened? How could we have let this happen? Why is this happening? Everyone just has a lot of questions, is what I would say.
And do you know of any protests or any events planned for Monday, tomorrow?
Right, so tomorrow at noon on our quad, we're holding a general assembly. So I expect that to be huge. There's a Facebook event for it, and there are people from all over California saying they're coming, and what should we bring? Should we bring tents? The last report I heard, there were 700 tents donated for this General Assembly at noon on our quad.
What is a General Assembly, just to clarify?
That's another question that a lot of people are asking. We don't really know. So everyone is just saying, come to the quad at noon. Okay. Some Occupy protesters are saying it's a rally. Other people are saying it's just that we're fed up with the police brutality. Others want the chancellor to resign. Others want the police officers involved to be reprimanded, maybe lose their jobs. Some are even calling for their arrest. So it's just a big free-for-all.
And quickly, how many people would you say have RSVP'd on the Facebook event for Monday at noon's protest?
I would say, I'm going to check my facts first. Let me just see. So currently on Facebook, it says that 1,600 are attending and 200 are maybe attending.
Okay. And last question, what would you say is at the core of this anger among students, among bystanders that come to UC Davis? What would you say is firing up this protest, this anger by students at university officials and at police?
I would say that this protest is about the police brutality that happened. It started as an Occupy or against higher tuition. It started as a protest like that. A lot of people at Davis are either on the fence or don't agree and do not support these protesters, the Occupy protesters, or protesting against tuition hikes. But now it's just about police brutality. No matter what you think about the protesters, everyone is just angry that our police force would use a chemical substance that's banned in many parts of the world on a group of students that were peacefully protesting. All they were doing was sitting down in our quad, which is what we do every day. It's just ridiculous. Why would they do that to us? We pay these fees so that police can spray students, and 15 minutes later our fire department has to come and wash out their burning throats and their burning eyes and their burning ears. I saw a photograph of my former poetry professor washing out the eyes of one of my peers. It's just ridiculous. Why would somebody do that? It's just inhumane. It's awful.
All right, Corrie Jacobs, thank you for joining us, and we'll be sure to stay in touch to stay updated on the latest on what's happening from UC Davis.